The Lawton Flats Church. Sometime in the early 1960s, my daddy worked in the logging woods hauling pulpwood. There was an area back deep in those woods known as Lawton Flats, a little ghost community. The rumor was that Lawton Flats had once been a thriving community that was wiped out by yellow fever. All that was left of the actual buildings was the old church, seemingly undisturbed by age or element. One hot, muggy day, my family loaded up in an old international pickup with one mason jar full of water. A bunch of the kids were in the back, and one child, probably me, was in the front with Mama and Daddy. This being Daddy's day off, he was feeling like an adventure. We traveled that old logging road deep into the forest until we reached Lawton Flats. Back in those woods, you could hear the mosquitoes buzzing like bumblebees. We pulled up in front of the old church, and everybody jumped out and walked in. My daddy carefully looked around as he entered the old church and was fascinated by the preservation of the building and all its contents. Everything looked as it did the last time the church service was dismissed, except for the 3 to 4 inch layer of dust. In the old vestibule, the rope for the belfry had rotted off the bell and coiled right there in front of the door. Daddy quickly picked it up, declared it was in good shape, and announced he was taking it home. As the family walked down to the front of the church, Daddy noticed a pulpit where he saw the old church ledger laying open with the last offering and attendance records. Also on the platform was an old kerosene lantern with a reflector on it, and this too was snatched up by Daddy as a good quality item. Immediately, my mama flew into a tizzy. She declared that he better put everything back where and the way he'd found it. "This is the Lord's house, and you don't go taking things from the Lord's house." Daddy quickly snapped back with, "Louise, the Lord has forgotten this place a long time ago." Daddy looked over the rest of the building. The mosquitoes were getting pretty thick and swarming, so he decided it was time to go. He took his loot and gathered the children and put everything in the back of the old truck and settled down in his seat to drive home. At this point, he turned the engine over and nothing happened. He tried again and again and again. Still, nothing happened. Of course, my mama had her look of "I told you so" on her face and said with a smirk, "You'd better get that stuff back exactly where you found it." Daddy began his cuss and fuss and rampage. He got out of the truck and opened the hood. Let it be known that my daddy was an ace mechanic. He built planes and helicopters during World War II and could fix any engine known to man at the time. But not this time. He checked the gas. He checked to see if it was firing. He checked the battery. By now he was carrying on even louder than before. He got back into the driver's seat and tried to crank it again. Nothing happened. He was so mad the veins were popping out on his forehead. He was sweaty and gritty out on the old sugar sand road. And all the while, my mama was heckling him to return the stolen items. Finally, just to shut her up and go home, he took the lamp and rope back into the church and left them in the vestibule. He ran back to the truck and tried to crank it again. Nothing. Mama told him with a little grit in her teeth this time, "Go put the things back in the exact place you found them." Daddy walked back into the church and placed the rope as best he could in the coiled dust on the floor. Then he placed the lamp back in the dust on the table on the platform. He closed the doors back just like they were, and with about 1,000 pounds of frustration on his face, returned to the truck. He shouted to my mama, "I guess it'll crank now, right, Louise?" She answered back, "It wouldn't surprise me a bit." Daddy turned the key and that old truck cranked like a new one. Needless to say, we were all a little spooked on the way home. We had learned a lesson we would remember for a very long time.